On behalf of the 300th Anniversary Committee, welcome, First Congregational Church family and friends. It truly is wonderful to see so many of us gathered here to celebrate 300 years worshiping together in this community. I'm so happy we could celebrate it right here in Cromwell. We have prepared and planned for so long for this day. It's hard to believe it's really here. It's actually the day. Thanks to everyone who helped make this event possible. There are so many people who've been doing so many different things. Before I introduce our MC, I'd like to say a few words about him. He's been leading this flock for almost 30 years, 30 of the past 300. Wow, that's really big. When he arrived in Cromwell, he was a young man on a mission, full of ideals, doctrine, not a gray hair on his head. He has blessed our marriages, baptized our children, broken bread with us, helped us bury our lost loved ones. And of course, he helps us to better understand God's Word. I've heard it said, ministers have it easy. They only work on Sundays. Easy job, right? During the years we've been involved with the 300th Committee, we have spent many extra hours at our church, and not just on Sundays. And funny thing, our pastor always seems to be there too. There are so many things that get done behind the scenes by our pastor. We want him to know that we do notice, and we appreciate all that extra effort. It is now my privilege to introduce Reverend Douglas Van Veldhuizen, Pastor Doug.
I don't usually get a big audience like this, so guess what I'm going to do? Well, we want to welcome you to begin, and I hope that you had the opportunity to just spend some time and listen. We were just so blessed to have with us Susan Hughes, who was our violinist. She played for you as you came in, and to begin, we've asked her if she would play one of the hymns for us. Thank you so much, Susan, for blessing us. I was honored when Jean Dunning and Karen Gronkowski asked if I would be the master of ceremony for our celebration. I began to think about what it is that I should be doing. And I'll be honest, I've never been an MC of such a large gathering. And it's, wow, I really need to look this up. And so I began to think about different people who MC programs. And the first one that came to mind was Billy Crystal. So, for those of you who know how proficient I am on the computer, I Skyped him. And he actually answered me, and so we were face to face, and I told him what kind of celebration we were having, and he was, wow. He says, and I said, can you give me some advice? And I sat there, and I'm looking at him, and he's thinking, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be good. I'm going to get some great words of wisdom. And he looked at me, and he said, Doug, one thing. And the screen went blank. What does that mean, one thing? Okay, I thought about it. I said, okay, one Lord, one faith, one baptism. No, I don't think that's what he meant. And then it dawned on me. And I thought of the scripture. It says, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet having taken hold, but one thing I do. Forgetting what is behind and straining towards the goal of what is ahead. I press on. Today we're here remembering our past, celebrating our present, but we are here to press on in this exciting time. We have been preparing for this for 8 years. And I would like to just take a few moments, if you'll indulge me, to just acknowledge some of our honored guests and individuals who are here today with us. First of all, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you who are our guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Paul Jaley, and his wife Charlene, who are here with us, and I just look forward to hearing what he will be sharing with us. He is the senior pastor at the New Testament Church in Plymouth since 1987. Ginny Pearson and his wife went to school together, and we went out for dinner. I tried to get the low-down dirt, during college on Ginny. I couldn't get any because she's so good, And but she's going to share a little bit more. Next, I would like to introduce to you Reverend Dr. David Mullen and his wife, Marcia. David is a pastor of the Church of the Living God in Manchester, Connecticut. He's actually been there now for 32 years. He has a couple years on me. Pastor Dave is also the regional director and representative for the Elam Fellowship, where I have my ordination. He and Marcia have been longtime friends for Sue and I from Bible college days on. And many years ago, under Pastor Dave's leadership at the First South United Methodist Church in Manchester, my wife Sue was introduced to her personal relationship with Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior. Dave, Marcia, nice to have you with us. I'm going to maybe stand up so they can see who you are. I'm sorry. When I introduce you, if you would just stand. Thank you. These are our speaker tonight. Daily, weekly, and monthly, I have the pleasure of working with some incredible men and women in an ecumenical ministry here in our little town of Cromwell. And this afternoon, we are just graced with their presence, and I'd like to take a moment just to introduce you. Reverend Mary Miller, if you stand, she is chaplain, Covenant Village in Cromwell. Reverend Dr. Paul Krampitz, who is a pastor from Bethany Lutheran Church. Father Doug Mosey, he is the rector of Holy Apostles College and Seminary. Father Mark Kierzik, who is the pastor of St. John's Church. Reverend Glenn Halverson and his wife Susan, who is chaplain at Covenant Village of Cromwell. And Reverend Scott Jones and his wife Robin, he pastors the Hilltop Covenant Church. So, also, and not here with us, Pastor Larry Wooldridge, who is part of our group, and he is not able to be with us. And we're also delighted to have with us Christine Thorngate. Her husband David is with us. They play in the music ministry. And her son, nice to have you with us. Thank you. So here's the deal. If during this time you feel a need for prayer, just go over to that table. Okay, they'll be happy to pray for you. And it will be, oh, you're off the clock. Well, we are also honored to have with us two of our former pastors who pastored at the First Congregational Church, and I'd like to introduce them to you at this time. First of all, we have Reverend H. Victor Allison and his wife Pat. They served the church from 1964 to 1969. They are now retired, live in Enfield, Connecticut, and from his words, you never really retire from the ministry. He's actively filling the pulpit on different Sundays. And so thank you for coming and being part of this celebration. Also with us is Reverend Prentice Toller, who served the church from 1974 to 1980. Fortunately, his wife Valerie was not able to attend. She's still working even though he's retired. Together they're pastoring though the Black Valley United Methodist Church in Whitensville in Massachusetts. Thank you for coming and gracing us with your presence. We are honored. 8 years ago we began planning for this whole entire year and for this banquet. There's been fundraising, there's been planning and things for this event. And I want to just take a few moments to just briefly acknowledge and thank so many different individuals. First of all, I am blessed at the church to have just a wonderful staff. They are just a great group, and I am thankful for them. So I'm going to ask if they would stand, because they're the ones that make sure that the church is present, it's clean, there's singing, there's music, the bills are paid, they teach our children, and in all of it they glorify God. So this time, Tammy Steele. She's our church secretary. Along with just her normal everyday activities and responsibilities, she has helped in so many different ways and helping with the little details here. Richard Tromer. I know, Rich. Rich keeps a very old looking building looking like new. And he tackles so many small projects that you just don't see, and I'm just so grateful for all that he does and his friendship. Nancy Robbins. Nancy Robbins is our choir director, church organist. I want to thank her for all of her planning, for all the special music presentations and the hymns throughout the ages, and just also for just being a dear friend. Cliff Parker. Where's Cliff? Cliff is our church treasurer. He's the one that keeps our numbers straight, and he keeps us in the black, at least when it comes to the banquet. Okay? Thank you. There's a couple others. Bob Kelly, who is our assistant financial secretary, and then also Steve Babisi, who is our assistant treasurer. Steve, I know you're here somewhere. So. Two others that are very much part, though they may not be paid, but they should be. Phyllis Becker, who is our Sunday school superintendent and works with our children. Thank you, Phyllis. And Pam Jones, who is her assistant, is not able to be here. She's down in Washington, D.C., hopefully having a good talk with the president about some things, but we will miss her, but she is here with us in spirit. I would like to thank Ginny Pearson and Susan Feldheisen. They helped host the reception after the special music concert that was done on a history of hymns by Mr. Richard Donahue, and thank you for that, and so much more. Matter of fact, it's because of Ginny that we have our guest speaker. Lance Kozakowski. My Uncle Lance, he is our tinsmith. You have to stand, Lance, I'm sorry. And he had no easy task. There were many of our numbers at the end of our pew that had been there from when the church was built, 1840, that were missing. And he hand-carved out of brass each and every one of them. Numbers of hours. Thank you, Lance. Bob Chalmers, who could not be here, unfortunately. Bob built the beautiful cabinet that is downstairs in our fireside room, where we have been able to display a lot of our church artifacts. And his time and gift of ability is beautiful, and we're grateful for that. And also, Mike Ruslan and Bob and Tim Arling. They were last year part of our Finance Property Board, and they oversaw the redoing of the fireside room, the ripping up of the carpet. Mike, where are you? Tim, stand up. Thank you. They got the quotes, they did the painting and everything, so I appreciate it. Ruth Goodale, she's not here, but Ruth put together 2 quilts for us. Her words were, she said, I made them 5 years ago because I didn't know if I'd still be here. She is, but she couldn't make it with us today. But if you came in today and they were out front and you did not sign one of those quilts during dessert or something, would you please make sure that you sign it? Because we'd love to have everybody's signature on it. And so it also, Ruth began the whole restoration. Out there you saw a violin when you came in. That was the first musical instrument that was actually played in our church in 1844. And she started the restoration of it. And then Rachel Jones, who also works with our children's choir, finished having the restoration done on it, and she actually played it in one of our church services, and it was wonderful to have that, and so we're grateful. You know, in Congregational Church, we didn't have an instrument in 1840. Think about that. 1844. It only took us 135 years to get an instrument in that church. Who says we can't change? Come on. I want to thank Pam and Jim Magoon, and they're the ones that have been after you to sign the quilt and make sure that you sign it. Thank you very much. And, it's so nice to have Jim's mom is here with us, Ms. Magoon, and it's so nice to have you come down from New Hampshire and be here with us for the celebration. Susan Bevere, where are we? Susan painted that portrait that was at the head of all the tables when you came in. She portrayed the 23 original members of our church that joined together and were part of the founding of where we are today. And I love it. She shows the church forefathers and mothers praying, facing into the future, not knowing what was ahead, but really instilling and putting in place for us for what we are able to build for the generations to come. And so in front of you, you will see there's a box of note cards. And there, in that box, there's 4 of the painting, and then there's 4 of the church, a more update picture of the church. And so that is our gift to you, to thank you for coming and being part of our very special day. Thank you. I hope you took some time to meander down history lane as you came in, and that you got the feeling of the rich heritage that is ours as a church. You began your journey looking through the eyes of 23 individuals, looking forward into the unknown, praying and committing themselves to Christ and to each other, and then sharing a part of what they prayed for 3 centuries, and we are here today because of that. Pressing on towards the goal to win the prize. They started it, and we continue it. At the end of that memory lane, you would have saw a picture, a painting that was just recently done. That was given to me as a gift by Sue Palmer. Sue, I know you're here, and her brother, Bill Buggy. Bill Buggy was the one that painted it, and the 2 of them, they gave it as a gift, and I am just overwhelmed by that. Many of you would know the Buggy name. William Buggy, who worked in Cromwell as postmaster, and was also worked at the Cromwell Savings Bank. So there's again, history that goes back so far. Larry Hanglin. Where is Larry? Thank you. Larry is the owner of Spectrum Printing and has been so kind and gracious. He has the one who printed up all the note cards and the programs that you had before us. And we are just so grateful for his generosity. Elaine Jones. Elaine had the wonderful task of putting together our program in the brief history from the last 25 years, adding to what had already been done. And also, I hope that you take advantage and look on the bottom of that throughout the program. There's a timeline. And that was originally started by Bruce Huffaker for our 275th. And it's wonderful to look at it. This church began before George Washington was born. And you think about that. And so it's a wonderful thing as you go through and you look at the history of our church intermingled with the history of around the world. And I hope you enjoy that, and we want to thank Elaine for all her work in doing that. I'm sure that as you're sitting here, you notice the beautiful flowers that are gracing each of the tables. And I want to thank the ladies. There was a whole group of them yesterday that came to the church and put them together and spent some time, and I'm so grateful. Of all those ladies who did that, would you stand up? Just thank you. We appreciate that. I want to thank Bruce and Lori Huffaker. Where are you? I know you're here. Please come up here. When plans were underway for this banquet, someone in the earlier years commented about how nice it would be to have some kind of visual presentation on showing the history of the church. Bruce would like to talk to that person after, if you did, were the one that volunteered that. I'll leave that conversation between Bruce and you. 7 years have gone by and Bruce has been faithfully working at this. It began by researching